So as you all know, I'm in the process of selling some stuff, and I had the chance to ship something out to who knows where it's going. But while I was waiting at the post office, I ended up coming during their lunch break, and so I just had to wait around until they were done with their lunch break. Of course, there's other people who needed to handle on with their business, and so one gentleman, while he was waiting, he came up and was like, this guy seems to always not be here. He was like, I wish I had a job that easy where I didn't have to do anything. And I was like, well, in my head, I'm like, well, why do you keep coming on his lunch break? It literally says on the door that it's from 1 to 1:30. But two, also, I just kind of reinforced, and I was like, like he's just on his lunch break. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that he's not always here. So, I mean, I've never met the post office person, so I don't know why he's coming during his lunchtime. And so then while we were standing there, he tried to make conversation. And something that I've had to learn, someone who's very curious, conversational, can really, make a connection very quickly. I'm in the practice of learning how to conserve my energy, and just really feel into my body how I would feel in the interaction. And so this time around, I was like, I can, it's my gift. I can really just connect with a lot of people. In the first instances, I was like, after that comment, I was like, I don't know if I want to continue this conversation. And so then somehow he came up with the comment with man, I wish I was like some of these kids around here. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, it seems like they do nothing. And I was like, do you know that for sure? And he's like, no, well, I'm just assuming. And I was like, well, we know what assumptions are, right? And so he's like, yeah. And I was like, I actually think these kids have it a lot harder than we used to have it. I was like, when you were growing up, this gentleman already had white hair. He looked like he was in his late 40s, early 50s. And I was like, when you were growing up, all you had to do was really get good grades, go to a good college, get a good job, get your 401k, get your pension, get your social security, and that was that. It was like these kids, I feel like they have a lot harder. It's a lot more competitive. And not only are they battling with the external world, more importantly, they're battling their internal world. And I was like, these kids seem like they're spoiled on all of their electric bikes and stuff. I was like, but actually, I kind of feel sorry for them. I was like, they're at the bottom of the totem pole, someone who used to ride a scooter around. I was like, they're at the bottom of the totem pole, on the roads and the highways, and they're with distracted drivers. I was like, that's scary. And not only that, I was like, you kind of got to think about it when, if your parents are just or your guardians are like, here's an electric bike, take yourself to school, it kind of feels a little lazy to me. It's like, if anything, the moments in the car is the most important, right? The moments at the dinner table are most important. It's those little things in between and those interactions. I was like, it's kind of easy in a sense, hey, here's this electric bike, take yourself to school, because I would rather not take time out of my day and be present with you and facilitate those little moments of connection. Obviously, as we know, people in cars and that sort, a lot of people are just on their phones nowadays. But you just never know. You're in a confined moving thing and confined moving room, I guess you can say. And it's you never know what those conversations can have. I was like, yeah, I think these kids actually have it a lot harder than us. And so anyways, that was really the only interesting interaction I had today that I wanted to share, and wanting to talk about how I talked about in a couple videos ago, when people are like, oh, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt your yoga session or your meditation or whatever. And I'm like, yes, please interrupt me. But this guy, I was like, I don't know if I really want to talk to him. But what was funny is towards the end of the conversation, I think after he wasn't expecting me to disagree with him or to challenge him in his perspective, his phone, literally, I think I was at the tail end of my sentence, his phone went off and he just immediately checked it and completely disengaged. And I was just like, this is exactly why I'm creating death to distraction, because that was a moment where we can agree to disagree. We can continue the conversation. I'm sure those kinds of conversations probably don't happen often, probably one that's going to challenge him and his perspective. But also having the courage to challenge people and their perspectives, and even for myself, I was like, as someone who's going to be an educator, I've had stories of myself. I was like, ugh. I was like, this next, if I were actually teaching these students, I knew that I would be dealing with different challenges that I probably wouldn't have been ready for or prepared for. And also that naturally, as we get older, it's kids these days, you know? But in that moment, I was like, you know what? I actually think they got it really rough right now, you know? So much so that actually my friend came home from a Halloween party last night, and they shared with me about someone that they met, and they were just talking about their young adult in their 20s and how like they're struggling in terms of needing mentorship, and thinking, I think it's her and her mom friends, and it's like, this is, there's something huge going on right now. And like, I appreciate them sharing that information with me, because like, it's so much of what I've already experienced as a young person, and so much of like what my pain point is, that again, it's become my purpose. And so I'm just like kind of making connections, of course, of how folks are interacting. And I'm just feeling super grateful right now with like the offers I'm creating and putting out there, and how it's developing over time. And so I just feel really grateful that I get to step into a coffee shop and like feel focused and being like, these are the two lanes that I'm working on right now, and they're eventually going to collide. And that's really exciting for me and really relieving for me, and just really like peaceful at the same time. And so anyways, going back to like the pattern interrupt, don't be afraid to challenge people in those moments. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think enough people are willing to rub up against each other and challenge someone's perspective based off of some silly comments that they're having. And I think more than anything, just to encourage commonality, and just realizing that we have more things in common. And if we don't have things in common, gosh, can we only think about the things that, others are going through. So, man, how to implore compassion and kindness in today's world, and how it could have been really easy to just be like, I'm going to look at my phone and disengage completely. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do otherwise and see where this seed may land. What kind of ground it's on, that's not any of my business. I'm just going to plant this seed and just be like, you know what? Can't make silly comments like that around and not expect that maybe somebody would actually challenge you in that moment. So I hope you all had a great Tuesday so far, and I'm going to go back to working on my website so that if people are looking for me and want a comprehensive understanding of the person I want to project myself to be, because we're all just playing grown-ups, that's what I'm going to be doing. All right, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye now.